All right, welcome everyone to the Motyv podcast. My name is Shaden Bertinoli. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm here with Blake Altum.
Yeah, also a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Also a licensed marriage and family therapist. And yeah, man, I had this idea last night where I don't even know where it came from, but recently, actually, I do. So in preparation for our group therapy with the men, I was looking up some opposites, and I was thinking, like, have you ever looked up the opposite of discipline?
No, I've never looked it up.
What would you guess it is?
The opposite of discipline could be laziness, boredom, stuff like that.
Right. At least Chat GPT, which we'll go with
That's some good research.
I know, right? It's amazing. But quickly it said typically the opposite of discipline is indulgence.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That makes sense right away.
It makes sense. And so that's what I want to talk about. Not necessarily discipline and indulgence, although we can definitely go there. I want to hear what your thoughts are with your clients, right? I think there's a lot of liberation that comes from understanding the true opposite of things. We know in scripture that God has even said like that there is opposition in all things.
Yeah.
And so I know that Satan definitely wants to be able to say, if he can mix that up, if he can get us to misassume or to honestly just conclude incorrectly about what the opposite is, then he can really mess with us. And so as I was kind of preparing for the podcast, I thought, anxiety is a really good example where I ask people a lot, what is the opposite of anxiety? And most people will think as soon as they hear it, they think of the emotion of anxiety rather than the state of being, which are subtly different, right? They are subtly different. And so then they think, okay, well, when I feel anxious, the opposite of that would be calm,
relaxed.
Mm-hmm. So then they're thinking, okay, so then now because the opposite of anxiety is calm or relaxed, that'll be my solution. So now I'm going to try to focus on creating a life that's calm, which sounds okay.
Sounds nice.
It sounds very nice.
Yeah.
But how we do that can get really, really problematic because most people then were chasing the emotion of calm, which usually sets people up to then avoid things that are hard, and avoid things that are uncomfortable, and avoid. And so now you think you're actually creating calm, but this is where Satan jumps in, and he's like, well, do you even know what calm is? Because what if I can duplicate it or probably duplicate in a way that says calm is actually the isolation, or calm is just like relief or pleasure.
Yeah.
In a way. And so now I'm seeking calm, but it's actually in the form of pleasure or other things that aren't actually calm. So now I'm really stuck because in the very beginning, I didn't even realize the opposite of anxiety is actually trust.
That's cool.
That's what the opposite of anxiety is. It's trust. And so now if we think, okay, if I have and especially if you take this in a spiritual way, if I have a trust, if I can gain a trust in God and in the doctrines that I know, and that He actually does have my life in control in a way, even though it might not feel like it, what could be the subsequent emotional experience by having a strong, trusting relationship? Calm.
Faith, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a strong faith in those things,
you're
going to feel better. That doesn't mean feeling better doesn't equal not doing hard things.
Right.
One of the lines from, and this I think is related, one of the things that stands out to me the most from the comfort crisis is the principle that the more comfortable we are, the less satisfied we are. It's weird.
Yeah.
So yes, we're not talking about like creating a life without difficulties, without doing hard things, all that kind of stuff. In fact, I think you are more calm and more at peace. When you think about like peace, I think of calm and vice versa. I find more peace knowing that I can trust myself and trust God in doing hard things. Like that means if my tolerance for doing hard things is built up, I don't get rocked by whatever wave comes crashing down on me, because it does.
Right.
Waves come hitting us all the time out of nowhere.
Yep.
And then, but we're like, we ride the highs and the lows because of that calm or that trust.
Exactly.
It's cool.
But it's the foundational piece being that one understands what the actual, like the true opposite of something is.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's quite alarming how confused we all are, to be honest. Like most people haven't even taken the time to even think about the opposite a lot of the time. Number one,
Yeah.
we get so focused on our problem. And then sometimes we use anything we can, like whether it's even just like medication to, let's just like take that problem away, or we use other things where really, if we could understand, and again, I'm not anti-meds, but there's just so much more usually to people's stuff, that if they can understand that when you tap into the true opposite of something, especially from a problem, you then just liberated yourself to know what you actually can focus on creating. Now, like I said earlier, the way you create that thing, such as calm, is a whole new ballgame, right? We have to make sure we're correct on that. But then again, calm isn't the opposite of anxiety. Trust is.
Yeah. I like that you brought up kind of Satan's lies.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's all over last week's "Come Follow Me."
Mm-hmm.
And Satan's whisperings and his, he is able to trick us into feeling the words that are in the scriptures. I forgot which chapter, but Second Nephi. But he says it's the phrase is carnal security.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't just mean, like, that's our bodies.
Yeah.
Carnal is kind of our bodies, our desires and things like that. But like when we have all our needs met, you know what I mean? Like what's the opposite of anxiety? Would be like, oh, all my needs met. I'm doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's fine. All is well in Zion.
Yeah.
It's not.
Nope.
It's not. And that's okay. Like we're always learning and growing through our crap. But he would like us to think that yes, if the opposite of anxiety is trust, what do we need to trust in? He's going to twist that. He's going to twist everything. Do we trust in ourselves? Carnal security is, oh, look, I work really hard and I make enough money. I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I trust in myself.
So true.
Ooh, it's not good. It's good to trust yourself. It's good to trust that you're
believe
consistent.
In yourself for sure.
And I'm going to stay disciplined in my routines. Like I trust that most of my days will look the same.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds kind of boring, but I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I love it.
Yep.
It's not about not adventuring. It's not about not being spontaneous, but like most of my days are going to look the same, so that on those times that I'm going to go adventure, it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get off on these things, but the idea of opposites, I don't think about it. I don't think about opposites very much. You know what I mean? I do think you can do it in a way where when you think about the opposite of some things would be the absence of some things, which I don't like to focus on the absence of bad problems. I like to think of the presence of
what I want.
Good things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another trick. And it's just the way we talk. I don't want pornography in my life, so I'm going to stop.
Right.
Well, no, dude, you said something in group last week that was like, if we're seeking for purity, we don't have to worry about stopping any of our bad problems.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We seek for purity.
Yeah. See, it's funny. I think in opposites all the time. So when people, it's interesting you said you don't.
Maybe
it's
I
like
do.
It's like the math of my brain. When
someone
someone presents something to me, I'm always like, okay, what is the presenting thing that's going on for them? Like, what is that? What's the issue? And I think about it in my own life, where it's like, okay, if I'm in this state of being, that means by law, I somehow failed in this other area, in the opposite area, or I'm struggling in that area. So repentance to me in that way is like, can I return in a Christ-like way through Christ to that thing and secure it in that way? So like depression, for example, again, the opposite of depression, most people would say is happiness,
joy.
And I get it to some extent, but actually depression is an act of continual rejection and denial. That's what real depression really, that's where it comes from. When we're constantly denying, rejecting, running away from that thing, something about us,
Avoiding.
something in our world, avoiding, which is also similar to anxiety. So that would mean the opposite is actually acceptance,
Yeah.
and also in some ways achievement. It's hard to have two opposites, so I don't want to get everybody confused.
Well, this is why I was just thinking why I don't think about opposites very often. It's just, and maybe this is just another word for it, or maybe it's just semantics. Sorry,
Yeah,
Candace.
that's good.
Candace didn't yell at me this time when I had my hand in my face. But I think of alternatives. I don't think of I don't think in opposites. I think of like
Alternative.
what's one alternative.
I see.
You know what I mean? Because maybe our opposites are different. I don't know. But I do
Yeah.
like it. I like thinking that way. But for me, I guess I'm not specific in like what's the opposite of this. I'm like, what's another way?
And maybe I'm pretty rigid in it because my faith, I actually, to take this the right way, everyone listening, but your faith can almost be perfect when you do truly understand, like, that is the opposite. Like charity and love is the opposite of lust.
Yeah.
Like, take it to heaven. Like,
Sure.
it is absolutely true. You want to fight lust, you really want to break lust, then you have to pray with all the energy of your soul to be filled with love, and to qualify yourself to be filled with love. That's it. That's like, to me, that's why I like it so much, is like, now I know where my energy can be, and without maybe putting a lot of energy into something that actually just led me down another failure of like, man, now I just failed at calm again.
Oh,
And now the hopelessness can start to set in of like, I've been trying to create this calm life all the time, and then people come in very hopeless, and they almost feel like abandoned by God, even because they thought that's what they were supposed to be seeking, because they didn't understand I was supposed to be seeking, trust, if you will.
yeah.
So the reason this came up yesterday, and at church, I walked into a 15-year-old class and sat in with them and listened to the teachers, and they were talking about belonging. And I had heard this quote from Brene Brown that I really loved, and maybe you've heard it, but there was this little clip on Instagram where she said she found in her research that the opposite of belonging was fitting in.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
that's like, yep, that's true.
Yeah. When you hear that right away, it's like that clicks
That clicks.
for sure.
Yep. And that's where I really wanted to go today, was like, I love that topic. And I think men for a lifetime, sometimes beyond their own memory, have been looking into, or trying to figure out how to fit in to certain groups of other men, and I know women do it too. But this idea of fitting in is this assumption that I can't belong, or I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, and therefore I'm going to look at the external qualifications of a group that I could try to adjust my character to,
Ugh.
and therefore be accepted into, and
Mm-hmm.
have a false assurance of love and commitment.
Yeah. And then you wonder why relationships are falling apart for these types of,
Yeah.
and it's sad.
Yep.
It's really sad. How could they know?
Mm-hmm.
You got to go get work.
Yeah.
If you find yourself not feeling like you fit in or belong over and over and over again through the years, you're going to feel hopeless, but
Yep.
but you have to do the work and commit to the honesty that it takes to like what's missing.
So true.
You know what I mean? Like what's missing for you that your like what's the common denominator? And that sucks. That's the hardest. Again, we say it all the time. The hardest part of therapy is self-examination.
Yeah.
Why is it not working out for me?
Yeah.
Why? Why does it keep happening? Well, you might be focused on the wrong things. Fitting in.
Yeah.
Fitting in means you're adapting case by case, group by group to what you think they want from you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just sad. It's sad. I don't mean that as a criticism. It's literally like, it makes me sad to when you watch people. We all know people like that.
Yeah.
You're like, calm down. I love you already.
Yeah.
Like, you're great.
Yep.
It's
there.
okay.
Been there,
Don't.
done
Yeah. Well, like, you don't have to try so hard.
Yeah.
All you got to do is be honest and real.
So I've shared it on the podcast, I would assume, but I forget everything I've shared and haven't shared.
We've done a lot of these, man.
So But I am fascinated by the idea of horizontal and vertical principles, and I know I've taught it to you and said it to you before, but vertical. So for those listening, a vertical, you probably you have principles in life like belonging. That would be a guideline of something to do. It belonging's not going anywhere. Like we want to belong, but the idea of vertical and horizontal, which to me in Christianity is like this beautiful sign of the cross, where on a vertical level, that's where belonging is supposed to take place. Belonging is actually a vertical principle. When I belong to God, when I belong to Christ in a covenant relationship, in this powerful relationship, I'm good.
Yeah, if you know
I'm
that
good.
if you know because you do, like
Yep.
if you have the faith to know that that principle is always there and it's consistent, like I belong to God,
Yep.
everybody does, they just don't know it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
If you don't know it, you find problems.
But
If
like
you,
you, but like you said earlier, in the absence of something, then something else will fall. Like if it's in an empty stage, something will jump on the stage,
mm-hmm,
and that's what's happening in the world now. So much is so much. I dare say everything has become horizontally focused.
yeah,
So now when belonging becomes horizontal, in other words, that means to your peers.
right.
Like now I'm worshiping them. Now I'm
The
seeing,
things around
yep,
you
the things
next
that
to
are
you.
next to me, shoulder to shoulder. Now we're in trouble. And men do it more than anything in the approval realm, which belonging and approval are, I mean, they're cousins.
Well,
Like
there's they're cousins, but one I think like belonging feels right.
yes, like it
A-
feels like righteous, huh?
Approval, no, it doesn't feel right to me.
Unless it's vertical. Well,
Exactly.
well, I think approval needs to be vertical too.
Sure. But
But you just
but
like the sound of belonging even more.
no, I don't like it when people are seeking approval of others,
Oh yeah, for sure.
right?
Right.
But if someone
Like and
feels
that would be
like
horizontal.
exactly, but if someone feels like they need to belong even in a group, right? Like even horizontally, I do think we don't need it to survive, but if everything is about relationships, even with God first,
Mm-hmm.
we still need good healthy relationships.
So that's where
Is it a
connection comes
need?
in.
Is it a need to belong or feel like you belong?
I think it's connection.
So
Because when you belong
connection
to your,
is a
like you,
need.
come on, like you belong to yourself, Blake, and so do I. Like
Sure.
we're not perfect, but put me in an all black Baptist congregation, and guess what? I'd probably have fun. Like
Totally.
like I'd be okay.
100%. You would appreciate everything about it.
Yep. Like like it
It's
wouldn't
fun.
feel. They might be like, "What's this boy doing here?" Like that's
Sure.
fine. But I know for a fact I could have fun and probably make them feel really like, okay, this guy's awesome. Like
Yeah,
this is fun because
totally.
I belong with me
Mm-hmm.
and God.
Yeah.
And so then that's what allows for horizontal connection to actually occur. It's
Right.
like loving God, or vertical principle,
Yep.
then love men like yourself, horizontal principle. And so for you listeners, you'll begin to see this. You'll begin to see it a lot. Like there's these horizontal and vertical principles, but there might be things in your life where you are focusing on the reason it's not giving back to you is because you're seeking that thing worth horizontally,
Yep.
because you're seeking that thing belonging
In
horizontally.
the source of the worth will never come from horizontal,
Yeah.
like at all.
Yep. And
Are you that's why people like are searching endlessly for this thing
yep.
and it's not there.
And
It's
you're
only
in it if you're in a posture of sponge, like you're
yeah.
in a posture of soaking something in
Mm,
from the external. That's how you know, because horizontal is always outward.
yeah.
When it comes to liberation, actually, when it comes to having a life that's like really built in meaning, then it has to be outward.
Right.
That the moment we become self-focused, right? Now we're just using people. Now they're
Mm-hmm.
just like objects to be used for your own gratification, which is basically lust in a different way,
Sure.
you know?
Or to manipulate or to get ahead, whether it's business or anything, right?
Yeah.
It's like people leech off each other until it's not a good source of whatever they're looking for anymore.
So what do you think, Blake? What's something you've done? I don't know. What are one of the bigger things you've done in your life that's really helped you to like own your belonging? You know what I mean? With whether with God and with God yourself,
Hmm.
that's just been like,
What have I done? I don't know. I think it's what I like. I think it's some of the habits and routines and discipline that I have when it comes to like sources of spiritual strength and power, which is studying the Word of God
Mm-hmm.
and praying,
Oh, but those are too simple of answers.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
No, I don't need anything deep.
Yep.
I'm not that guy. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that type of thinker anyway. Like I love the simplicity of the gospel.
Yeah.
It's for me
Yeah.
because I don't consider myself to be an intellectual,
Mm-hmm.
right? I know I'm not dumb, but I'm not some like whatever philosopher, you know.
You and Jordan
I'm
Peterson aren't
I'm sure
hanging out a ton.
I love listening to him.
Yeah.
He's way smarter than me.
Mm-hmm.
But when he says stuff, I'm like, "Oh yeah." But I don't necessarily think that way, and I don't know if I need to. I've never felt like I needed to
Mm-hmm.
because I love the simplicity of the gospel. Obey the commandments or do your best to obey the commandments, and then you're blessed in all things,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual and temporal.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's literally it. It says it all over the place.
Yeah.
In all of the scriptures. Obey the commandments. Follow me.
Yeah. I think for me, I'd have to say for me, it's been service. Like,
Well, that's part of it,
right.
isn't it?
It's like this paradoxical, beautiful thing is service.
But service is a commandment.
Exactly. Yeah. But what I'm saying, when I look back at my life and if I had to really pick it, right? If I had to truly say what's like what's the thing or top 3 things that has contributed to my testimony of my own personal identity with God, that I belong as a son of God, then it's service, and which is so ironic. And that's what I love paradox. I love it. Paradox isn't like Jordan Peterson. Like it's not that complicated.
Yeah.
Once you wrap your mind around it.
Right.
The idea that giving yourself and finding yourself, I mean, it's just so beautiful.
Yeah. That's why we tell people, I mean, even if I get someone in my office that's not really spiritual, they don't have necessarily like an organized way of doing it, I still tell people then find a cause.
Yeah.
Like find a cause that's bigger than yourself. And that could be volunteering at the soup kitchen. It could be really anything like that. And when you start serving others, you get humbled. So of course you learn about yourself. Really, of course you get more connected with yourself. And eventually through making changes, or just like, and that's fast. When you start serving a lot, the changes that happen to you are pretty fast.
It's true.
Because you're like, this person needs this person needs that. This is what I'm doing. This is the bigger cause, and this is what we're working toward, is about others. And you have to check yourself.
Exactly.
You're forced to check. Yeah,
is forced.
You're forced to check yourself,
which is so ironic because, again, like think in the mental health world. I mean, how many words now have the word self hyphen in front of them?
Yeah, self-sabotage, self-esteem, self-worth,
self-confidence, and I'm guilty. I say the same stuff. Like,
well, yeah, there's a place for them,
but it's like so much right now in the world has become self this, self that, and I think we have become too busy.
We've overscheduled for sure,
and even our service isn't present in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
and I hope this doesn't sound like this doom podcast. Like I know it's a little bit like that. I know. But I think this is where we're at. Like, I think we need to wake up, and men, like, I think if you can't be serving in approval, like you can't be self-serving, right? In approval, and then like serving others. Like they don't come together. My daughter Saturday, she's like, "Hey Dad, can I go get you a Coke?" And I'm like, "Sure, Nia, you can go get me a Coke out in the fridge in the garage." And she comes in and she's just like waiting for me. And I open it up and I drink it, put it down, and turn around. And I obviously know what she's doing, right? And I go to the stove and I turn around, "Nia, what are you doing?" And just playing with her, and she's totally drinking it. And I said, "Hey, Nia, let's talk about this, And we had this simple lesson of just like, "Hey, Nia, did you really get that Coke for me? Or did you have like, your own motive behind
hidden agenda.
Hidden agenda." And she's like, "I didn't have a hidden agenda." That's what she said. "I didn't have a hidden agenda at all." And
how old is she?
She's so fun. She's 9. And she's
cool.
Just playing.
She gets it then.
Yeah, she gets it. But
for sure.
I still took a moment to kind of throw that little lesson in there. But yeah, I think we the more insecure we are, the more agenda we have, and oftentimes subconscious agenda. Even like we don't even know, but it by the outcome. Like the fruits of your labor show you that you're not being edified as much. You're not it's exhausting. Like that's how you know. Like the fruits of service never exhaust. Like physically, sure, absolutely, but like spiritually and in your soul, it does build.
It energizes.
It
We've talked
energizes.
about that before too, or even after a good week of therapy or a good day of therapy, and you could call it service. Maybe you couldn't.
Sure.
We're getting paid.
Yeah.
But when you are in it and you really truly love that person sitting across from you, which
Yeah.
we do,
Yeah.
we do. We love all of the people we see, and I mean that. Like I don't. Yeah, it's probably hard to believe but whatever. We sometimes we don't know you for very long, but we do. We love you, and when you have a good day of therapy and you're locked in and you're like, okay, this is the person I'm helping right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's energizing. So you're right. You might be tired at the end of the day. You might be physically, maybe emotionally and mentally kind of tired, but your soul is energized and you feel really good.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what a good tired feels like.
Totally.
And everybody knows what a really crappy, like exhausting tired feels like.
Yeah. Like a lethargy.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk men for just a quick minute. So this one of the opposites for most men. Well, number one, men often don't know how much shame they're truly carrying.
Oh, they don't even know the difference between, well, and most people don't, but yes, speaking of men, like men don't necessarily know the difference between guilt and shame.
Sure. And so if we take shame, and I had, I did a podcast a couple episodes ago on shame and kind of broke it down, and because I have my own thoughts on shame, but yes, most men, this idea that like this feeling of basic, the garbage inside of you that you don't want to be seen, and like this stink inside of you that you assume if people saw, they would definitely reject you, and that the love that, or abandon you, or that the love for you would go down. In other words, stuff that defines who you are in a lot of ways.
Sure. But I think it's important to add, because it includes that too, but I also think shame includes what we're not, or what we think we should have been already.
Completely.
Or where we should have already been. And I haven't accomplished this, and I haven't done this or that. You know what I mean?
Love it.
And so there's the parts of our mistakes and our secrets that we don't want out to be seen by everybody. And then there's the parts that we beat ourselves up for also on top of that, for not being or not having accomplished, or when we compare ourselves, I should have been there. I should have been making this much money by now. I should have started a business by now. I shoulda.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also, I think, shame in those things.
So now stay there. So everybody listening,
I'm not moving.
I know he's not moving.
I'll stay in this chair, rigid.
Don't
I'm
move,
a robot.
because the cameras can't move either. So with what Blake just said, if you're just a typical guy and you haven't thought about this, and it's all happening inside of you, all of these shoulds, right? We call it shoulding on yourself, where you've just should the living tar out of yourself, right?
Shoulding all over the place.
Shoulding, and it really stinks. It's bad, and that's why we're here to help you, by the way. So it would be very simple to think if my shame is telling me about so many things I haven't done, then it would be really easy to think the opposite of that would be
do more, accomplish more.
And you know me, like that's me, like that's been my life, fighting shame with achievement. But
I haven't noticed.
Yeah, he's never noticed. So, but it's a definite. Thanks, man. I just feel
you're working on it.
I'm working on it, right? But it's the blessing in it is that it is exhausting. That's the blessing, because you can't keep doing it. It always brings you down.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you don't just gear yourself back up and try again.
You take a little rest.
Yeah,
I'm exhausted. I've had it. And then like 2 days later, you're back into the freaking thing.
Yeah, but that's power of opposites. Because if you misunderstand it, which most men, no offense, bros, but you don't. You don't understand it. You think it's achievement that will outdo your shame. But really, again, motive. That's why I love motive. The why behind it is this fear-based motive of achievement over and over again. So then you call it the fear of failure. No, it isn't. It's fear of rejection. It's fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
It's like you've failed many times. You're still going. It's rejection. It's that you could truly be exposed and seen. And that's why the truest opposite of shame is vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's to be seen. It's to actually to flip yourself inside out.
Yeah. Put it all out on the table, man.
Like I just did. I mean, even on a podcast, like there's no shame. That's why I've done the work where it doesn't mean some of the mentality isn't still there for me. Where if
And the
I,
tendency to slip and
hmm
then get back on
yep,
the path.
but I can articulate it. And that's that
Right.
self-examination, self-awareness, where most guys, they're not self-examining. So then what do they do when they're so exhausted from all of their stuff and I'm so tired of achieving? I find an outlet. Find an
Yeah.
outlet. Yeah. Find
Hmm.
something that gives me some numbness, that gives me a bit of just whatever temporary relief.
And whatever kind of has been told to you a lie,
Mm-hmm.
here's where this relief comes from.
Yep.
Here are some, whatever it is. Here's some laziness. Here's some social media scrolling. Here's some dopamine hits from all these sources of drugs. And, we obviously we're focused on pornography
Yep.
with the men that we work with. And so if you find yourself in that position, dude, you guys got to reach out. Like,
Yep.
yeah, it's been really fun, but
And that's why compassion as a form of vulnerability, like they tie together.
yeah,
Having compassion for others, having compassion with yourself, but the other side of compassion is receiving compassion.
yep,
And guys, you guys suck at receiving compassion.
yeah.
We do. Like when people want to show us so much compassion, we think it's weak.
Mm.
I don't need your pity. I don't need your softness. Like I need toughness more so I can
Yeah,
do
it's
more.
fine. I'll
Mm-hmm.
be okay. Like,
When in all
always am.
reality,
I'll just push through it. Blah blah blah.
yeah. When in all reality, the original shame wasn't even yours to begin with.
Yeah,
That's the saddest part. Is that so many men are walking around with wounds that have been there for so long that really you kind of like it wasn't even your fault.
yep.
Like it was just part of your life. And I'm not even saying I do not advocate for blaming anyone ever, because then you lose hope. You can't blame.
Yeah,
But the
blaming doesn't
fact
work.
is, the shame usually was learned.
Yeah,
It wasn't just like this crazy trait you took on.
or
Like it's
it was placed on you in a lot of
exactly.
ways in childhood.
Yep. And that's where the compassion can really like begin in a
Yeah,
lot of ways.
yeah.
It
When you
doesn't always
start,
begin there, but it can.
when you get to the really good exercises of kind of looking at yourself as a 5-year-old boy and what he needed,
Yeah.
but what he wasn't getting. In a lot of cases, this trauma and things like that are just the way we were parented, and a lot of us were really blessed with a really good way of being raised up. Um, so, it's kind of crazy to think about, but you guys need to take it easy on yourself in
Yep.
a lot of ways. We're not talking about excuses. We're talking about explanations and insight,
Yeah.
just awareness,
Mhm.
like that's where it starts. It's like, dig into this a little bit. Let's kind of journey through where some of these things might have come from, and you might have your eyes opened in a lot of ways and find some self-compassion,
Good
and
point.
and then through that process, compassion even for your parents too,
Mm-hmm. Just doing
knowing
their
that they
best.
were doing their best. Holy cow. you know
And I'll challenge you, for not you, but the men listening, that if you don't want to do that work, fine.
yeah.
Then this day, stop talking to yourself the way you do.
Mm-hmm.
Like be nice.
Yep.
Learn how to speak to yourself kindly. And if you can't, if you continue to just beat the living tar out of yourself, then you need to do some work.
We also, yeah, and I totally agree with that. I echo that. We've talked in the past about the idea of how like negative self, like motivation, or what was the phrase that we used where it's like, come on, you piece of crap, like lift this,
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's like a negative motivation.
Mm-hmm.
What's the word? Maybe, I don't know if it's
No,
that.
that's kind of what we said, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like a
it's like,
drive. It drives you and
yeah. When
yeah.
you kind of whip yourself into
Mm-hmm.
shape and you're like, dude, you're so lazy, go to the gym, and that's how you kind of get into it, it won't last.
Nope.
It won't last. You need to know why.
That's the relationship we have
Yeah.
with shame. It's a
Yeah.
motivator.
Like, come on, you whatever
Mm-hmm.
word,
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
get your butt off the couch and do this. You're such a lazy piece of crap. And then you go to the gym and you do it, and that's cool, better than nothing, but it won't last.
Yep.
If there's not a good reason, like a good, healthy reason that is more about taking care of yourself and the body that God gave you,
Well,
that's way better.
and it's so true, because the one of the biggest consequences I see in what you just said is that the longer I've spent treating myself this way, it's so much easier to assume that an invisible man I call God, that I'm trying to believe in, thinks of me the same way.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy
Yeah.
for you to slip into that idea that he thinks the same way you do. and is just as impatient with you as you are with you,
Yeah.
and thus losing like so much compassion with yourself, and you then find yourself rebelling and distancing yourself from the man who absolutely just wants to guide you through love, but that you don't even know what that is. You don't even know, most men don't know what it's like to be guided
Yeah.
through through harder things with love.
Yeah.
And in fact, most men, if they even witnessed it, would probably run from it.
Mm-hmm.
They would push it away because it's that foreign to them. And
Yeah.
that I'm just here challenging to say, you must lean into that if you want to have a life of meaning rather than a life of accomplishment. If you want a life of meaning, like you might accomplish everything you want to. Cool, man. But
Yeah.
like, who's at your funeral?
Yeah.
Who's at your funeral, man?
Again, yeah, totally.
You know,
It's so
your
good.
funeral later in life, by the way, not the one you want to end now at times, right? It's like it's just that's why suicide comes in, where it's just I'm so done failing, I'm so done. I'm just trying to achieve my worth all day, every day. That's where it comes in.
I forgot who the quote is from. Somebody quoted President Nelson. I think it's President Nelson in church yesterday in a talk, basically saying when you die, when a loved one dies and you're at the funeral, like who talks about their possessions? Who talks about their cool boats or their really nice house? And that doesn't happen. You know, it might happen with celebrities. It might, but like your loved ones, you don't talk about those things because they don't matter. They don't matter. You know? But how deceptive is Satan?
And there's the opposites again. Like
How
what matters?
How deceptive is he?
He's so good.
It's
And
like,
I always hate saying that because I feel like I'm almost giving him credit.
No, he's deceptive. You know what I mean? But it's all over the scriptures. So if you read the scriptures and you believe the scriptures, you can't deny that the principle that Satan is deceptive isn't there.
Yep.
You know, he's like, hey, he's convinced people and even spiritual people that like miracles have ceased. You know, we don't need more scriptures. We don't need the Book of Mormon. We had a Bible. You know, like God stopped talking to his children. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But it's deceptive.
Yep.
And so it's like, why would I even try to get through this if miracles don't happen?
Which is a sad life.
Yeah. And then if you focus on the miracles that have already happened, you might get back on track. It's all your focus.
It is.
It's awesome.
And what I'm saying is it takes a minute sometimes to make sure your focus is correct because you think that calm is a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's good, but is it actually the thing you're supposed to focus on?
Yeah.
You know, that's the deception. He doesn't deceive with hard opposite, like talking about opposites. He doesn't deceive with hard opposites. He likes to deceive with next twos is what I like to like.
Oh yeah,
right?
Just
Relief
a little
or
shift.
peace.
Yeah,
right. Approval, belonging.
Yeah,
like just those short
comfort
or connection and belonging. Like it's like really close. And can you tell the difference? And the only way to tell is to take your time and be really honest with yourself, like you said. And the fruits of the focus will tell you your focus where it's at. If you're right, if the fruit is constant exhaustion, not peace, not joy, and it's rare it's happening, it's likely your focus even has been deceived.
Totally.
In simple ways.
Totally.
So
you think about the things that you even stress about, they're like not worth stressing about.
Yeah.
When you have trust and faith.
Yep. That's why I love having Eric on here, you know, with ALS and just people who are passing away. They're what matters most is so clear.
Everything comes into focus, clear. Doesn't it?
So
then let me ask you this though. This is just a thought, so you can redirect it if you feel like you need to. I would ask us and whoever's listening, how do you eat, drink, and be merry? Like, what is your version of that? Think about it. You know, if you're listening or watching, and even us, like how do each of us eat, drink, and be merry? Because that sounds awesome. I like to eat.
Yeah.
I don't drink alcohol.
No.
I drink these yerba mates.
I can tell you did one.
But I really like to be merry.
Sure.
It sounds fun.
Sure.
Like it's fun. I like to have fun. I don't know if that's what it means to be merry, but eat, drink, and be merry. That sounds fun.
I'll say this. I think most people, if they took an inventory, myself included, always, is if they took an inventory of what happens between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m.
Mm,
they could find a lot of that.
interesting.
I think most people's days from 8 a.m. on,
Pretty okay.
pretty okay.
Yeah.
And it's doesn't mean there aren't things to work on, but it's usually that's when the discipline switch turns off
Sure.
at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Again, am I being literal? No,
Right.
but just take it for what it is. And I
Yeah.
think
Or
from
you find your own times where you
Mhm.
like whatever applies to you, or like your down times might be your most indulgent times.
And that's where I think most people would have the most resistance to making some big sacrifices, because your nighttime routine and the way that you finish your day. Again, how do we want to finish our lives? Like I think most people want to, when you finish a race, when you're on the straightaway on the Ogden Marathon, it's like it's such a beautiful thing. Finish lines are just so cool,
Hmm.
because you could have been walking for like the last 4 miles, but then when you get to the last eighth of a mile, even, you're like, okay, like let's finish by running, and it's
Hmm.
just so awesome. Not that if anybody had to walk through it, there's anything wrong with that,
Right.
but it's our tendency,
Yeah.
but our day to day in the small and simple things, I don't think we finish the way that most of us actually really want to finish.
Sure.
When we think about it, we finish more the way that our natural man wants to finish,
Hmm.
rather than like us, our soul, like me.
Do you think the way the natural man wants to finish is avoidance?
Mm-hmm. Or pleasure. It's like
Sure,
it's reward. What's the reward from the
but
day?
even seeking that pleasure can be avoiding something that might be a little more
Mm-hmm.
inconvenient or boring or whatever.
Or avoiding the next day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Avoiding thinking about it, which there's healthy and maybe in that, right before you go to sleep. It's like you got to sleep. But I think my example of that would be, there's several times, and I never seem to learn my lesson, but if I like pig out after a certain hour, my sleep is crap.
Mm.
And that's physiological. That's
Sure.
like your body's working to digest and your brain's spinning a million miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, every Sunday night, why do I not sleep really well? It's not because of work anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the Sunday scaries anymore. It would be something stupid like that now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I love my work now.
Totally.
You know what I mean? More than ever. So I don't get those anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get anxiety about a certain person I need to talk to or this or that.
Yeah.
Now it's like some stupid indulgence. You know what I mean?
It's true, man. No, it's true.
So,
So I love the idea that a nighttime routine, it's what influences the morning routine, and most people are only focused on their morning, where it's the nighttime
Yeah.
is what creates the
It's
morning.
important.
But anyway,
That's luckily and something that's worked for Christine and I is like scriptures and prayer
yeah,
is part of our, like, we won't go to bed without it. And a lot of that is just our routine and the way that, but it's good.
Yeah.
Like at least it's there. We're like, wait, what is, oh yeah, we need to read and pray and this and that. And that's part of our thing. And then pretty much lay down and start reading yourself to sleep with other good books.
yeah, I love it.
So,
Okay. Do you want to summarize this baby, or we were all over?
no, I like it. I
Opposites
think when
matter.
you think about the opposites matter, or at least, and then kind of moving into trying to identify deception.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you actually after? Are you after approval? You're gonna start to go astray.
Mm-hmm.
Side, like horizontal approval.
Yep.
I'm still in between this idea of like approval with God.
Oh, I'm not really. I'm
Like,
completely in
what do
line
like?
with it.
No, what do you mean though? Like,
What he
do we need
his
God's approval
of me? Yes.
of my actions? Maybe, but
That yeah.
doesn't He approve of us?
Well, that's what we're doing.
Like, if we have self-worth because we're children of God, I guess we do need our behaviors to be approved of.
Yeah.
To be considered worthy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not attached to our worth. But am I seeking God's approval? It's just an interesting conversation, isn't it? But
approval is the word I would use, that says I see you, I'm attuned to you, and your life is as much in harmony with my will as humanly, like as can be.
Sure.
Again, in a not perfect, but in a human, mortal way that I'm trying. That's the approval of, like, is there alignment? Is what I'm.
Well, yeah,
what I
totally.
See. And I use the sacrament for that. That's my test
Cool.
every week. Is the
That's
sacrament.
awesome.
So
that's good.
anyway, well,
That's
thanks for listening, everyone, and For those we offended, sorry if we did. Wink, wink.
I don't
But,
think we said anything offensive today.
Hey, you never know.
We can work on that.
We can work on that.
On being more offensive. I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yep. See ya.
See ya.